Welcome back, folks, for yet another preview show here on the College Baseball Show. This one here brought to you by Just Baseball Media again. Fellas, they took care of it. They did the Sun Belt for me while I was out. I was out at the ABCA conference. Went a little bit late on my return flight home. Will and Jared took care of me. How we doing tonight, fellas? Will, I'll start with you, buddy.
Oh, I'm doing great. We're back again, 2 in 1 week. That's when it really feels like baseball season for me. Is when I'm hunkered down at the desk for multiple nights a week talking college baseball, and we're just about a month away. I think a month from tomorrow is technically where we're at. So I'm fired up for this one.
I cannot wait. Yeah, we are a month away, and I am very, very excited. Jared, how we doing, man? I know that we've been busy today with the college baseball.
Yeah, it feels like we've had a baseball meeting about every hour of the day today. But no, doing well. I'm ready for us to get blown up for our picks in this conference, just like we were in the Sun Belt Conference. So it'll be a good time.
I mean, this is the best part of previews, right? We get to bring everybody the information we have, all the knowledge that we bring into this game, and, doing the Big Ten Conference, and we're going to do every conference preview for you guys. Tune in the next couple weeks. We're going to get it out. We're also going to have a top 25 show, releasing our top 25. It's just great to have the conversations. That means baseball is back. When it's 2 times a week on your screens, folks, it means college baseball is back.
Yeah.
And we're right there. I cannot wait.
When we're being called dumb, that's when baseball's back.
It's my favorite part.
When I'm being threatened, I feel like I'm just back home. It's just great. It's fantastic.
That is the best part about preseason is just being called dumb. Like every single week. It's just like you're an idiot. And it's like that's the whole point of doing previews is so in 3 months I look like an idiot. That really is at the end of the day. Yeah. Certified ball knower or not by the time we get done with this. It's truly a test of time is where we're going to end up with this.
You look at the videos we release and it's so funny. You see like, oh, there's 3,000 likes and then there's 30 bookmarks. You're like, those 30 bookmarks are going to hurt later down.
Yeah, they're coming for me. They may or may not be coming for me in 4 months.
Oh, it's so fantastic. So as we do on all these preview shows, we go in reverse order of how we picked the conference. Now, this is just our predictions, of course. And we've gone through a lot of these, and we've done every single conference. We've done a lot of previews before. So this is the Big Ten Conference, for those of you not aware. We're starting off at number 17, who we think Northwestern, another season possibly of struggles. Will, I'm going to let you lead into this one. They did a lot better than people thought last year, going 25-27, much better than the previous season.
Yeah, absolutely. Hovering right around that 500 mark, finished 13-17 in Big Ten play. We're really going to focus on the offense with this team. They're bringing back 2 of their biggest offensive producers, Owen McElpatrick and Ryan Kucharak. Kucharak led the team in RBIs and home runs with 18. He was actually one of 2 players to hit above 10 home runs on the entire team. This is a team that just struggled on both sides of the ball, really. I mean, they didn't produce a ton of runs over the course of the season, but they're bringing back a good chunk on both sides of the ball. They're also bringing back 2/3 of the rotation. Sam Hilboki and Matt Kauser, both of which threw above 60 innings, made above 10 starts, above 15 appearances. That's a nice thing to lean on, especially when you're a team that hovers towards the bottom of the conference. I mean, that's enough to make the jump into 500. Maybe not in conference play, but as a season total, you can be hovering right around that. Hilboki held hitters to a 260 average, which is pretty good in the Big Ten. I mean, historically, the Big Ten has not been a pitching dominant conference. It's been more so everyone's going to go out there and mash in the cold weather, and all the pitchers are going to throw cue balls for 3 months in the season. So to hold guys to a 260 average over 82 innings is pretty impressive for me, and it's more than enough to give them the nod. I think Northwestern's going to take a step forward this year and be a little bit closer to that 500 mark, maybe above the 500 mark in conference play this year.
Yeah, they have made marked improvements, right? And we've seen them year to year. They keep doing this, and it's not a surprise that we're going to start seeing more and more of this. I think throughout the Big Ten Conference, we're going to start seeing that the money that's trickling in from football might be coming down to some of these programs, and they might be able to get better facilities and better players. Comes with that, better coaching staff. So I'm really excited to see kind of how this whole conference kind of progresses. And this is kind of a big year for them now that we've got the full conference here with 17 teams and everybody going in baseball. I'm very excited. Number 16, Purdue. Jared, they were 31-23 a year ago. There were some high hopes on them for the offensive side, and it really kind of just petered out at the end of the season. You're muted, by the way, Jared.
I was typing up timestamps, so this is what I get. Want to make sure you all have the content and like the teams you can go click to. 31-23 overall, like you said, Mark. They finished 11-19 in conference, which is not great. My biggest concern about this team is just the pieces they lose, right? Logan Sutter was the best hitter on this team, dropped 22 doubles, 15 bombs, 62 RBIs, posted a 1180 OPS. He transfers, I believe, to South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So it's a massive loss for them. They also lost, I believe, Easton Story on the pitching side as well. And then Carter Dorn and Michael Vallone are both gone and off this team. So it's going to be really tough for them. They did do some rebuilding in the portal. They got Jarvis Evans out of South Carolina, who could be somewhat of an impactful player. Ross Heifel out of Mississippi State. So they brought in some names. They had a top 100 portal class, according to 64 Analytics. So they get a couple guys in to kind of replace those. But I think the big names to watch as returners for them are Cole Van Asten. So this is a guy who threw 67 and a third innings for them last year, started 14 games and posted a 4.28 ERA in the Big Ten. So likely a guy who's going to anchor down that rotation spot. And then they return a key bat and Aaron Banias. So he posted a 10 OPS, 9 doubles, 9 home runs, 43 RBIs. Going to be a starter for them again. So yeah, they got a couple pieces back, but my expectations aren't super high. Just given you lose a guy who hit 15 home runs, 62 RBIs, and you don't really replace him. That's pretty tough.
It makes it tough, and I mean that's a little bit of this conference right now. Is these guys trying to figure out what happens when they lose these superstars to other programs and when they get drafted. A lot of these teams are going through a lot of those rebuilds and trying to figure this thing out. And there's some really good coaches in this conference that have done a lot of winning over the past seasons. But it's really hard to kind of figure out how to fix those holes. Same as my team here, number 15, Michigan State, 28-27. Coach Jake Boss Jr., he's in his 17th season at Michigan State. He has an overall winning record. He's really done terrific with these guys, but they've never really gotten over that hump and really made a ton of noise in the postseason. They're going to be a little tough one here. I think that they're going to see a big decline in the pitching side. I mean, that happens when you lose Joseph Duerza, like a super stud, like all conference, the pitcher of the year for the conference over a Grayson Grinsell from Oregon, who was on a really good team. Joseph leaves. This team's going to be struggling to find some pitching. I think that this is just kind of a step back season. Now, they do have some offense returning, but it's also, again, not a lot. The only 300 hitter they had in the lineup last year, and Ryan McKay, he comes back. He played 54 games last year, 5 home runs. Randy Seymour comes back also, 55 games, 268, 4 home runs. They got to replace so much of their offense, so much of their pitching. Aiden Donovan did make 9 starts, and Nolan Higgins made 15 starts last year, so they get a little bit back on the mound. But they were not necessarily successful in their attempts last year when they did get those opportunities. So going to have to step up if Jake Boss Jr. really wants to make a splash here in this next year here with Michigan State. But I feel, looking at everything overall, it's a full rebuild here for Michigan State. And I think that this is going to be a really tough season when you lose that much offense and that much pitching and you have to rebuild it. And they didn't necessarily hit the portal as hard as people were hoping. This is kind of a full rebuild for this team. A young team, they might surprise us, but I think that we're seeing a full rebuild. Number 14, Illinois. 30-24 a season ago. They had some really big moments, and then there was like the same thing as like the Purdue's where they kind of fell off late.
Yeah. And they finished 14-16 in conference play. They're actually going to return 5 offensive starters, so you have a ton of building blocks already in place heading into the 2026 season, and that includes former Marist and top 5 in WRC plus in the Big Ten from a year ago. Colin Jennings, he finished with a 1.078 OPS with 16 bombs, 61 RBIs, led the team in both, also went 6 for 6 on stolen bases. They're also going to bring back Nick Groves and Jack Zabig. Groves went 15 of 19 on stolen bases, drove in 18 runs. He's going to be the table setter for this lineup. He hit 324 just a year ago. There's a lot of fun pieces in this lineup, man, and to be anchored down by Colin Jennings, who very easily could finish in the top 5 in OPS and WRC plus in the conference again. The pitching side is where we're going to get a little bit hairy. They finished with a 6.49 ERA last year. We saw a lot of games get away late, especially in the bullpen. They used a lot of different arms. A lot of different guys had 8, 10-plus appearances last year. They are bringing back Reagan Hall, who made 12 starts for them last year, 67.3 2 innings pitched, only 38 strikeouts, more of a pitch to contact guy. The 301 batting average against is pretty reflective of that. They're also going to bring back, however, Zach Bates, who was their best bullpen arm. He recorded 8 saves last year, 28 and 2/3 innings over 23 appearances. You got to be fired up when you have a guy like that who held down hitters to a 153 average. That's a big-time piece to bring back for a pitching staff that I think is going to struggle early on, especially figuring out roles. So at least you have the anchor role figured out. Maybe he slots into a starter role. We're seeing a lot of closers from a year ago start to feed into the starter role. So we'll see kind of what the plans are in place for Bates, but there's a lot of innings to make up. There's a lot of starts to make up for this Illini team. So I think they're going to hit. They're going to score a lot of runs. They got a lot of firepower in that offense, especially towards the top of it. It's just a matter if they can hold teams down long enough to scrape across a couple more wins.
Yeah, you're talking about replacing like 70% of their innings from a year ago. That's not easy to do in any conference, let alone the Big Ten, where you got to play pitching and defense here a lot in those cold weather games. Illinois is going to have to find some wins there. Like we said, 30-24 a year ago, they did struggle in Big Ten play. A team that kind of has been all over the board in the last decade, Rutgers, number 13 here, 29-28. Jared, tell us a little bit about this team. I know that we lost a lot of pitching to the portal, and those guys are going to go be successful elsewhere, it looks like. But tell us just a little bit about Rutgers.
Yeah, this is a team that hasn't made a regional appearance in 18 years. So I think that's the biggest thing that kind of sticks out there. They finished 29-28 overall, 15-15 in conference. So about 500 team. I think expectations were much higher for them last year, especially when you look at the pieces that they had. They had Trevor Cohen, Ty Doucette, Peyton Bonds. Like all these dudes were supposed to be massive producers in that lineup. And the lineup hit, but the pitching just did not show up for this team. Landon Mack was the best arm, posted a 4.03 ERA, but Justin Shattuck had 15 starts, posting a 7.78 ERA. Bullpen arms look pretty good for them. Like Nolan Peel's a guy I'll talk about here in a second, but they lose a ton of guys. They lose Landon Mack to Tennessee. They lose Justin Shattuck to, where did he go? I can't remember now. Oh, Georgia Tech. They lose Justin Shattuck to Georgia Tech. On the offensive side, they lose Ty Doucette and Trevor Cohen to the draft. So they've lost some big key pieces that were part of this team last year. Peyton Bonds comes back. This is a name probably to watch. He posted an 814 OPS. Yes, the name sounds familiar. He's the nephew of Barry Bonds. A guy who's just like you expect to see a little bit more offensively. He's got light tower power, but it just hasn't really shown up. He only had 5 home runs last year. Really struggles to get to the pitch on the outside part of the plate. But if you come in on him, he's able to get the hands in there. It's just kind of a slow, longer swing. If he can clean some of that up, he could really be really productive for this team. But outside of that, like the returners are kind of bleak. They do go into the transfer portal and get quite a few guys that are worth monitoring. I think Chase Cruson out of UCF, who's definitely a table setter type profile, should be playing, I believe, center field for this team, is going to make a big impact for this Rutgers lineup. And then this Rutgers team got the 20th ranked overall transfer portal class. So like they brought in some dudes. They got Ryan Jaros from NC State, Charlie Meglio from Campbell, like all these kind of position players who can hopefully make up some on offense. But I think like most of these Big Ten teams we talk about, pitching is going to be the question mark. And I talked about Nolan Peel. He returns and posted one of the best ERAs on this team. And then one last guy I'll mention just on the offensive side that I think this is something I've talked to Brian Areca about, who's our Northeast regional guy, or not for us, but used to be with the Prospects Live, is Yomar Carreras. True freshman last year and hit 255, 326, 382 with 6 doubles and 5 home runs. He was a highly touted prep kid. Was kind of shocked he got to Rutgers. Struggled a little bit offensively his freshman year, but I think he's someone who can really, really improve and like take off. And if you're looking at a guy who's going to be kind of a comeback player, or not a comeback player, but like a guy who's going to take that neck, be a breakout star, it's Carreras.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Bonds and the light tower power, right? Well, as Wayne Graham said, there's guys with Friday night power, and then there's guys with Tuesday afternoon power. And unfortunately, his has shown up as a Tuesday afternoon power. Hopefully, he can make that shift into the weekend and really step up for this team. But it'd be great to see this Rutgers team really compete and maybe get to a regional at some point here in the next 10 years.
This is a program that is not that far removed from what should have been a playoff berth and 41 season. We were just talking about this pre-show. You have so much talent in that area, too. The Northeast is so flush with good high school talent. New Jersey, Pennsylvania. You got to imagine, and I feel similarly with honestly all of Rutgers sports. Like eventually you got to start tapping into that, right? It's just a matter of winning those recruiting battles. They haven't done it since joining the Big Ten, but I feel like it's going to happen eventually, right? I mean, maybe it's not, but I really do think it should. I mean, you're right there. You're in New Brunswick. You got to get kids in state. You got to keep those guys there. And it's a program that I feel like I'm always going to believe in year to year, but have not put it together the last couple.
2 schools that purge New Jersey, Virginia and Maryland. Brian O'Connor destroyed the New Jersey recruiting pipeline for New Jersey schools specifically. And I mean, Maryland does the same thing. Like those second tier guys who don't go to Virginia, they just end up going to Maryland. And so New Jersey schools, like they don't want to stay in the snow. They're going to go a little bit south, close to home, a couple hours away. Then they go to Maryland and Virginia.
Yeah. I will say Rutgers last year, I think a lot of people had them in their top 5 for Big Ten. Everybody thought, these guys, these arms are going to produce, the bats are going to produce. Been a little bit disappointing after that 40-win season, as Will mentioned, and everybody thought, okay, they're going to take that next step, get there, and they just have not made that step. So who knows? Maybe 2026 is the year for Rutgers to step up with all that recruiting class that they brought in and that transfer portal class from 6-4 Analytics. Looking forward to it. I got number 12 team here in Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. 24-28, they had some really good performances early in the season and then really struggled down the stretch. Pitching was their biggest issue last year, where they had all these guys that were thrown out there, trying to throw anybody on the weekend. Justin Thornton was the one guy who stayed around and got out there. He's gone now, so they're trying to replace a bunch of innings. Will Wheeling, he's in there, Jack Spainer, Jamison Martin, Joe Sperry, and Cole Selvig. These are guys that got opportunities, and we're going to see what happens in this next season trying to make those outs. But on the offensive side, Easton Richter, 12 home runs, 278. He returns. He's expected to do really big things here for the Golden Gophers. Charlie Sutherland, 290, 6 home runs. And Weber Nels, he had 15 home runs and hit 284 last year for a catcher for them. This is a team that might surprise some people, and that's why I think people are shocked that we might have them at 12. But they have some offensive weaponry coming back that might be pretty scary here in this conference. A conference that's a little bit lower in pitching status probably this year, so you might see some more offensive stats. And Minnesota's built a nice little base that might go in there and attack some people and frighten a few teams here. So looking forward to the Golden Gophers taking off here in the 2026 season. But again, pitching is going to be an issue where they got to replace so many guys. A lot of these teams are replacing so much pitching, so we might see a lot more offense in this conference this year. But it'll be interesting to see. Number 11, Iowa, 33-22-1. Will, this team was all over the board last year, where they had some really good performances, some really bad performances. They were right there at the end of the year to possibly win the conference, and then they get beat by Oregon pretty steadily. Talk about this Iowa team.
Yeah, finish up their season 21-9 in conference play. This is a team that really relied on their pitching. And I know we've kind of been beating the drum of teams losing their pitching. This team is no different. They're losing their entire rotation. Reese Buter, Cade Obermuller, and Aaron Savory, all 3 gone, all of which threw above 60 innings last year, all of which made above 13 starts last year. This is a team, as much as the Big Ten has not been known for its pitching over the last couple of years, they actually just promoted Cade Obermuller's dad, Wes, to pitching coach as of January 6th, but he's been in the program the last couple of years. In those 3 seasons that he's been there, this is a program that has jumped from roughly 160th to top 25 in team ERA over those couple of years. So the pitching development has been really good. However, when you're bringing back your most veteran pitcher this year, who threw 16 innings last year on 14 appearances, you have some really, really big concerns. They lost all of their innings. They lost all of their rotation, their main bullpen guys. Tyler Guerin is the one guy on the pitching staff that is back. He held hitters to a 190 average last year over 16 innings and 14 appearances. The offense also loses a lot. They are bringing back 2 of their top hitters in Caleb Wolf and Gable Mitchell, 2 guys that I'm really interested in watch. Mitchell had 44 RBI last year, almost led the team in stolen bases, going 12 for 14. Wolf drove in 27 runs last year. He's more the table setter, 420 on base percentage, 5 for 5 on stolen bases. We might be in the minority in having Iowa this low in the conference, but man, they lose more than arguably anybody does in this entire conference this year. And I think that's just due for a big step back. I know you're always going to bring in guys are going to step up. Things are going to get wacky. And, the Big Ten, I feel like it's one of those conferences that for the most part, anyone can win on any given weekend. But I think Iowa is due for a pretty significant step back after going 21-9 in conference play last year.
Yeah, and this is a team, like you said, they lose so much, and I think that people have them rated so highly, maybe just out of legacy, nostalgia. They're like, this has been a team that's been right there the last 4 seasons. People have picked them as upsets to get to Omaha, and they've kind of just never, ever gotten there. They just never really got their footing under them with all that pitching that they've had. We're going to find out if Wes can coach this team up and can get some pitchers out there to go get some innings because, like you said, returning not a ton of innings from last year's team and a lot of offense. Again, another team returning a lot of offense, but it's going to be interesting to see how this pitching staff does. Number 10, Maryland, 27 and 29. Jared, this is one of only 4 teams in the Big Ten that had a losing record last year, and I know that surprised a lot of us.
Yeah. I was shocked that Maryland had a losing record. I think it's their only second losing record since 2011. Rob Vaughn was originally the head coach of this team for quite a bit and really turned this program around. Coach Swope's taken over, and of course, as a new head coach, you're going to hit some bumps in the road. And like you said, they finished 27-29 last year, 12-18 in the Big Ten. Not like what you want to see. I'm worried somewhat about this team. I did see them this fall against Georgetown. I did like what I saw, but you got some big shoes to fill, right? Chris Hakopian, star of this team, transfers to Texas A&M. His brother, Eddie Hakopian, who was the captain of this team, graduates. They lose Hollis Porter, who was their home run leader, I believe, to Texas Tech in the transfer portal. Alex Calarco, who was their catcher, who also was just an absolute masher. You lose him as well. So a lot of pieces to replace. On the flip side, big news is they get Braden Martin back, who was their starting third baseman, posted an 849 OPS last year in 56 games for them. And they did really, really well in the transfer portal. I think this is something that Swope probably doesn't get enough credit for, but they brought in big names from LSU, Vanderbilt, Virginia, UNC Wilmington. And for me, the big transfer that they got was first baseman Ryan Costello. This kid was a highly touted prep prospect who wound up committing to LSU. Why? I don't know. Like, was he going to play in front of Jared Jones? Probably not, but didn't get a ton of playing time. Transfers to Maryland. Absolute masher. I think he's a guy. He looked a little bit overmatched by some of these grad Georgetown arms that were all throwing mid-90s and like they were lefties with a bunch of funk and like they were just blowing high IVB fastballs by Costello. But I think he's a guy who could really produce in the middle of this lineup for Maryland. They also get David Mendez over from Vanderbilt. So he had some struggles there, but this is a guy who started his collegiate career at Dayton, and he slashed 342, 442, 505 in his freshman year. Got a chance to play second base for them. And they get Jackson Sirios from Virginia. They get Antonio Morales from Wake Forest, who's going to compete for an outfield role with their returner, Aiden Hill. So a lot of big names they got coming in. And then the one guy you got to look for on the offensive side is Ty Connis. He was hitting leadoff for them in that Georgetown game, and he looked every part of a collegiate baseball player. This is a guy they've talked about. I think Swope has given him high praise in a lot of the interviews that he's done this preseason as a guy who could easily replace and fill the shoes of Chris Hakopian. And this is a lot to say a lot about a kid who's just coming to the field as a freshman. I think D1 Baseball mentioned that he hit 400 with 6 home runs this fall. That's pretty impressive, regardless of who they're facing. So they also bring in a couple other freshmen like Bud Coombs, who was another highly touted prep kid out of this Maryland area. He's running back for the football team and also plays baseball. So, yeah, I mean, the offense is going to look good. Your question marks, again, are going to be on the mound. I feel like this is a running theme of all the Big Ten teams. The big thing is they lose Kyle McCoy, who was their ace that went out there every Friday night. I called him Mr. Reliable in my write-up. He posted a 3.32 ERA in the 84 innings, goes to the draft, of course, because he's like a 6'8" lefty who just throws 93 miles an hour. You're getting drafted. And then but they do bring in some interesting names. So ECU transfer Lance Williams. When I saw him, he was like 99 miles an hour. Not quite sure where the ball was going, but I mean, it's absolute electric stuff with a slider that goes along with it. Evan Smith is probably their second name locked into this rotation. So he is a guy who was in the rotation last year. I think he only got 4 innings. He got hurt. And that's when the Swope kind of said the wheels fell off the bus for Maryland last year. It's like when they lost their 1-2 punch with McCoy and Smith, that's when they were kind of worried. So, but it sounds like Smith is healthy coming back this year. So they also got guys like Jake Yeager, who, Mark, I know you've talked about on previous podcasts, who can really take a next step. They got Austin Weiss, who's a freshman, again, another highly touted prep guy who was potentially a draft prospect. So we'll see if they have the pieces. Like, they got the names. Now the names have to perform. So I think that's going to be the big thing for the Terps.
Yeah, it almost feels like second chance you, right? Like there's a bunch of guys here that are going to be given their opportunity to be in D1 baseball. They've had their stumbles, but they've had some good shining moments. I believe in Swope. I think that he's going to turn this thing around and figure this thing out. This is could be a really good baseball team again. The 27-29, not necessarily indicative of what this team could have been last year. I think that they were just so banged up and missing so many pieces on the pitching side. So we're going to have to see what this Maryland team does. I think that they get back over that winning record and possibly compete here for the near the top of this conference. Number 9, Indiana, 32-24. Jared, I'm going to let you go on these guys again because I know you did a really good write-up on this team. It's kind of shocking how much they lost, and then we still have them here at number 9.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I was first when I was like writing this Big Ten write-up, I was like, I'm not going to write about Indiana. Then I started looking deeper into the roster and I was like, oh, they might actually be good. So this is a team that finished 32-24 overall last year, 16-14 in the Big Ten. This was a team we had preseason ranked top 25, right? And they went into that Arizona, the Sanderson Ford Classic or whatever at Surprise Stadium and just kind of got manhandled in that tournament. And we were just kind of like, what is this team going to be? They finally got it together, pulled off a winning record. But man, when you have like Devin Taylor, Corbin Dickerson, Tyler Cerny, Andrew Wiggins, like you're expecting that team to be a top 25 team. And the pitching on the mound just didn't get it done for them. Like the lineup matched all season long. You had two of the best outfielders in all of college baseball just going back. It felt like they're going back-to-back home runs every single night. But the good news for this program is they lose Taylor and Dickerson to the draft. They lose Tyler Cerny to Kentucky in the transfer portal, but they got a star in their program still, and Jake Hanley. So this is a kid who posted a 10.04 OPS, hitting 14 home runs, will drive it in 54. He's going to be squarely in the heart of that order. They also return Cooper Mazian, who slashed 320, 394, 512 with 17 doubles, 40 RBIs. And then they got Will Moore, who posted a 903 OPS, and he's going to solidify their kind of left side of the infield. So they got a lot of returners on the offensive side, even for as much as they lost. Hogan Denny also comes back. They got a couple other newcomers like Aiden Stewart and Mateo Noto. Like they got some firepower in that lineup, and I think it's going to help them produce. The problem is they got 3 arms to replace, all who logged the most innings for them. Ryan Kraft, Ben Grable, Cole Gilly, all threw over 50 innings, all posted ERAs under 4.5. They're all gone. So they're going to have to really rely on a lot of these arms they got in the transfer portal, like Reagan Rivera out of Coppin State, Caden Jacoby out of Missouri, Jackson Bergman out of Toledo. It's going to be a lot of like seeing what pieces fit. And another big name to watch is probably Brayton Thomas. So this is a big time prep kid who came to campus, didn't really struggled in his first season, only went 16 innings, posted a 6.75 ERA. But if he can take those big leaps that they expect him to take, then they got an arm. But it's going to be a lot of like plug and play, it feels like, on the mound for them.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, they lost so much offense, but they have so much offense returning. It's crazy to know that this team could have been so much bigger last year with that lineup that just absolutely matched all season long. If they can figure out the pitching side, they have the offense again to return near the top of this Big Ten conference. Number 8, Ohio State, 13-37 a year ago. They were in so many ball games, and they ended up finding ways to lose those ball games. Second year here with Coach Justin, we all believe that he's going to have really big success here. I know that I've interviewed him in the preseason the last 2 years. I think that we all believe Ohio State kind of turns this thing around with the talent that they can get there. Tell us a little bit about this Ohio State team in 2026.
Yeah, you summed up their season right on the head. And genuinely, no knock on that team last year. It was really one of the worst bullpens in the country. Like, it felt like every single game is Ohio State's got a shot. And they would lose games 12-10, 15-13. Like, this team mashed last year. They pitched to a 9.62 ERA last year. This, to me, 2026 feels like the great reset for Justin Hare. And I think you're going to start seeing him bring in kind of the talent that he would bring in at Campbell, like teams that really, really mash. If there's anything that guy does as a program, wherever he is, those teams will always mash. And they're going to bring back a handful of players on offense. Lee Ellis, one of the main guys they're going to bring back on offense, started 38 games last year, posted a 922 OPS with 34 RBI. Mason Eckelman, catcher from last year, who started 49 of their 50 games, he's back. He posted a 438 slug with 5 bombs, 29 RBI, but he's bringing in a lot of bruisers, guys that you got to talk to, and Henry Kaxmar and Dane Harvey. If you haven't caught film on Dane Harvey yet, go to Ohio State Baseball's Twitter page right now and go look up some home runs that kid hit this fall, because, oh my goodness, is he going to hit moonshots in the fall. He's going to be one of the best power hitters in the conference. And I think you're going to start really – this to me feels like year one of Justin Hare. Like last year, it felt like a really big transition year, and things didn't go their way at all. And quite honestly, they didn't even hit as characteristically well as we kind of would have expected, but despite the fact they posted up a lot of runs. But that pitching staff really needs some big adjustments. They are going to bring back their main starter, and Gavin Kuzniewski, who started 7 games last year, made 18 appearances, pitched 56 innings. They're also going to bring back Hunter Shaw, one of their most used bullpen arms, who made 19 appearances last year. Quite honestly, at Campbell, I feel like Justin Hare was always known for having, 1 or 2 plus power arms that could go out and dominate on any given night. But that team would just beat you with the bats. And I feel like that's the direction that Ohio State is heading. And this year might be a year where the pitching staff does struggle again, but I think we're going to see them take a huge leap after last year. I mean, they were pretty much I believe they finished last in the Big Ten at 5-25 in conference play. Very uncharacteristic of that team, and I think they're going to take a massive step this year. If you're an Ohio State baseball fan, get excited for this year. It's going to be much better. It's going to be a lot more fun. I know there's a lot of attention on the football team, and baseball probably slides by the wayside there, especially with the record last year. This is going to be a fun team. It's going to start turning the corner into a really fun program year over year.
Yeah, and they've made improvements to the stadium. They're investing in weight rooms and in the players and in the meals and everything they do. I believe in Justin Hare. I've seen him be very successful. Like we said, he got Campbell to the playoffs multiple times in regionals. I think that this team makes a big turnaround, Will. I think you're dead on with that. I think that we're going to see a lot more consistency from this team than we saw a year ago. Speaking of our number 7 team with our consistency, Washington, 29-28. It was really a tale of 2 seasons for this Washington Husky ball club. They had a stretch in the middle of their season where they were 3-18, where they were struggling because they had so many arm injuries. They had so many injuries out on the base paths, and defensively they were just putting people out there that were healthy. They barely had 18 players at one time that were healthy enough to play baseball, and that's really hard to do in a Division I level. And Eddie Smith, coach, first year up there from Utah Valley, listen, what he did at Utah Valley, unbelievable. So I really believe, again, another one of these coaches that you have to kind of look back and go, I believe in what he's going to do. I believe the mix he's going to have. Eddie Smith is a huge, great coach, I think. So in year 2, I expect them to take a leap forward also. I saw them in the fall. Keston Taggart is 6'5", and they have him listed at like 225. He looks like he's 250. He looks like he could be my little cousin. This dude mashes. He hit a ball against 30-mile-an-hour wind all the way out into the ocean. I'm pretty sure it's still floating by some orcas right now. This kid mashes, so keep an eye out for him. He's going to absolutely tear the cover off the ball. Jackson Hotchkiss, center fielder for them. He was a huge freshman last year, right? All this huge, highly recruited, highly touted freshman. He struggled. He had his struggles as a freshman. He looks a lot more polished. Expect him to be taking a huge step forward here in this season. Colton Bauer, catcher for them, another masher. So I think that you're going to see a lot more offense from this team, and I think they're going to get after some pitching staffs. Again, with the decline in pitching in this conference, I think Washington takes a huge leap forward. And what Eddie Smith does best is he puts pressure on defenses. I expect that. You're going to see hit and run. You're going to see bunt and run. You're going to see home runs. They're not just a team that's going to go out there and expect to walk an next base hit. They're going to put pressure on teams the whole way. And then on the other side of the ball, they return a lot of pitching. Justin Timms, I think that he could be an ace for them on Friday nights. Cooper McBride, left-hander. Tommy Bradenberg. This is a team that's going to be really, really good. They didn't have necessarily a guy that throws 97, but they had like 10 guys that threw 94. So I really expect this team to take strides forward. I like what Eddie Smith's done up there at Washington. Expect Washington Husky baseball to be better in this season in 2026. I will say that with my whole chest. Number 6, Michigan, 33-23 a year ago. Will, again, this is a Michigan team that we're just like, when are they going to make that next step? They keep getting right there on the cornerstone. And they had some really good moments at the beginning of last year. And then, again, late just wasn't there.
Yeah, they shocked I believe it was the Puerto Rico tournament early on. I believe Stetson walked away with that championship in the final game. But this is a team that was cracking the top 25 those first handful of weeks last season and looked like they were going to kind of be a legit competitor in the Big Ten and kind of fell off the table the back half of the year. I'm actually really excited for Michigan baseball this year. Yes, they lose Dylan Vigneault and Will Rogers on the mound, but they're bringing back a lot of starting pitcher. Dare I say the best rotation in the Big Ten in 2026. This might be my favorite rotation. It's going to be anchored down by Tate Carey, led the way with a 3.63 ERA last year over 57 innings, punched out 51 hitters. You're bringing back Kurt Barr, who threw 69 and 2/3 innings last year, over 14 starts, 16 appearances, punched out 74. And David Lally Jr., who I think is going to make a massive jump this year. I've seen some fall tape on him. The stuff looks really, really good. He threw 76 and 1/3 innings last year over 13 starts to a 4-5 record with a 4.95 ERA, punched out 54. I'm so excited for this pitching staff. I think this is one of the few true complete rotations in the conference. And that leads you to make a big jump in the conference, especially in an offensive-heavy conference. If you can keep teams off the board, especially early on when it's cold out, teams are going to struggle. If you can keep teams off the board, they're going to win a ton of games. And I think these three starters are going to go really deep into a lot of games and really carry this team. On offense, they're losing a lot. Benny Casillas out. Mitch Voigt out to the draft. Cole Caruso out. Jeter Ybarra out. However, they're going to bring back Greg Pace Jr. He had a really solid year last year. Only made 32 starts, but appeared in 54 games. I think you're going to see a lot of him. He stole 8 bags last year. Drove in 21 runs with 6 bombs. The guy I'm really excited for, he's my big red circle on Michigan's offense this year, is going to be Jonathan Kim. He started off the season on a ridiculous hitting streak. He started 29 games for them only last year, drove in 15 runs, but he's a guy that I think is going to get on base at a ridiculous rate this year. He's really good bat to ball. He's not getting real deep into accounts a lot of the times. Him, and then you're going to have Colby Turner returning as well, who just felt like he was on base all the time last year. 18 walks, 7 hit by pitches last year, drove in 34 runs and only 39 starts. That's at a pretty good clip for a guy that felt like more of a platoon bat. So they've got some guys that I think are going to take a big step up and really have to, because they weren't guys that were starting 50 games for them. These are all guys that started 30, 35 games. So the offense definitely has some question marks, especially when you're losing 2 separate guys that posted a 1. OPS. But man, this pitching staff, especially early in the season as the bats warm up, we always talk about, especially in these cold weather teams, the bats heat up while the weather does. So even if the offense doesn't come around until April, I think this pitching staff is going to win them more than enough games in 2026.
I believe that they returned the second most innings in the entire conference. So that's a big thing in this conference to be returning that many innings and really successful innings. They weren't necessarily pitching their way out of ball games last year. They just could not seem to get that one hit when they needed to. They couldn't get that 2-out hit. This is a team that could turn around real quickly and find their way to the top of this conference right there with the Oregons, UCLAs. So looking forward to Tracy in year here, 2026 here for Michigan. Number 5, Nebraska. 33-29. They had their ups and downs last year. They played some really good baseball. They won a series against an Omaha team in Oregon State. They looked really good at home. They looked really bad on the road. It was a weird tale of 2 stories with this Nebraska club, but they return a lot of offense. Yes, they lose some, but they return Devin Nunez, who hit .331 with 5 home runs, Joshua Overbeek, Case Sanderson, Dylan Carey, Max Buttonback, Will Jessic. They have 7 guys that started for them last year are returning to this lineup. So a team that, talking about returning a lot of innings when we're talking about Michigan, we're talking about a lot of at-bats that are returning for this Nebraska club that was really good offensively last season. They're going to have to get better on the road. They're going to have to pitch a little bit better in those road games when they pitch really well at home. Now, they do lose some innings, but they have guys returning in Ty Horn, who had a lot of starts last year, Tucker Timmerman, and they bring in Grant Clevenger from Tulane, big left-handed kid. I think that this weekend rotation is going to be really good for them. They've also brought in 3 top 200 freshmen in the country. It's going to be interesting to see where they put these guys. With Jace Ziola, big right-handed pitcher, Auden Pinkonen, another right-handed pitcher. I think they might get some weekend rotation minutes. If something happens there, they might get some innings. And then Joey Sinstock, third baseman, who was like the 5th best third baseman in the country in the rankings, and they're going to bring him in here to Nebraska. He might get an opportunity to play right away, whether it's DH or somewhere else in the infield. But this team's going to be able to hit. I think that they're going to be able to pitch a lot better this year. This is a team that if they can figure out a way to win road games is going to be really, really difficult here in 2026. Number 4, Penn State. This might be the highest we've had them in the preseason rankings in a long time. 33-23 a year ago. They struggled a little bit in conference. When out of conference, they were really surprising and really, really good, and they won a lot of midweeks. Jared, talk a little bit about this Coach Gambino team.
You said we haven't had them ranked high in a while. It's because they don't really have much of a winning history. I mean, that's not a knock on Mike Gambino. He's only in his second season here, but they haven't been to an NCAA tournament since 2000, and they haven't won a regular season conference championship since 1996. And I don't even know, were they in the Big Ten in 1996? I have no idea. I probably were, but Gambino's been coming into this program, and he really wants to flip that script, right? Like, he's in his second season, and he pulled off a 33-23 overall start and a 15-15 in the conference. Like, things are looking up for this team. They lose two huge pieces this year. So they lose Paxton Kling and Ryan Weingartner to the draft. But they got another piece back that they thought they were going to lose to the draft in Bryce Molinaro. So this is a guy who's probably going to anchor that lineup. He had a bit of a down year. So this is part of the reason why I think Penn State had some of his struggles. He slashed 267, 363, 502 with 8 doubles, 13 home runs, 61 RBIs. You look at that, not much of a down year, but like his year before he hit like over 325. I think he had double the amount of, or not double the amount of home runs, but he had more home runs. He had more doubles. So it was just kind of a bit of a down year compared to his freshman year. So if he can get back to that 2024 levels, it's not going to just pay dividends for Penn State, but it'll pay dividends for his draft stock, probably part of the reason why he came back. So expect to hopefully see him kind of turn things around and anchor this offense. They also get two other big returners. So Jesse Jankowski and designated hitter Jack Porter. So I don't even know how to say this. I'm so terrible with names. Jankowski hit 298, 368, 551 with 14 doubles, 12 home runs and 54 RBIs. And Porter / 310, 408, 549 with 14 doubles, 10 home runs and 38 RBIs. So you got your kind of three guys in the heart of that order that are going to be back to this lineup. Like, that's massive and huge. Like, you lose your table setter and Ryan Weingartner, but like, you're going to have your three big horses in the middle of that lineup. So expect a lot of offense from this team. They also get a lot of interesting bats out of the portal. So Jaden Davis out of Vanderbilt, which I think is a big name. Spencer Barrett out of West Virginia. Kevin Carstetter out of Tampa. Michael Anderson out of Arkansas. And Maddox McDonald out of Trinity. Davis is the guy I'm most interested to see because he had an incredible 2024 campaign with Vanderbilt where he slashed 315, 394, 435 with an 828 OPS as a freshman. And so like, he had a lot of struggles in 2025, and I think saw limited playing time for them too. So like, this is the guy that Penn State can kind of give. It's almost kind of like Paxton Kling, who was supposed to be a breakout candidate with LSU, really struggled to kind of find his way in the SEC. Goes to Penn State, has an incredible year, gets drafted. Like, I could see Jaden Davis doing something similar here. And then Barrett was another good hitter with West Virginia / 278, 336, 443 in 45 games. So they got some big bats in the portal that I think are going to really supplement these other guys that are returning. Pitching staff struggled a lot. They lose their ace, Ryan DeSanto, who going big into that season, he was just really, really a key cog for them. They have a guy who I think could replace him in Colin Fitzgerald out of Maine. I think I saw in the D1 report, the fall report this year, he's got an uptick in velocity. He's got a ton of his starter experience that he brings from Maine. So he's a college baseball veteran, has been around the game for a while. He's the guy who could kind of potentially slide into that DeSanto spot. They also got Kyle Emmons out of Towson, Benjamin Hudson out of West Virginia, Kyle Laser out of Westchester. So these are all guys who can compete some prominent roles on the mound. Will they have enough firepower on the mound? I don't know. I think it's too soon to tell. Last year was a real struggle for them, especially out of the bullpen. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like, the offense is going to be there, but will the pitching carry them to this number 4 spot, I guess, that we have them in now? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, we can say that they're maybe just a step behind the UCLA and Oregons and Michigans this year, but that may not put them in that bad of a spot when they got that much offense returning. And Carson out of Tampa, people may not know too much about that, but D2 Tampa is like the best D2 program in the country every single year. They're rated number 1. I think it's like the last 4 seasons. So he's going to be a superstar possibility there for Penn State. I like that, Jared. Number 3, USC, the Trojans. They've had some up and downs. Coach Stanwick's fantastic when he was at Grand Canyon. He's come over to USC, kind of tried to revitalize that. They are going to finally get to play home games, Will, in 2026. Cannot wait. They've been 2 seasons on the road now. Haven't had a home game. They finally get to play some home games again. Tell us a little bit about this team that was 37-23 last year.
Yeah, you got to be fired up, if nothing else, to get some home baseball back in Southern California. This is a team that's going to look to replace a lot, though. I mean, the guy that I've talked about so much when we talk about preseason stuff, specifically in the SEC, Caden Aoki. He's gone. Arguably the best pitcher in the Big Ten and / Pac-12 over the last 3 seasons. I mean, this is a guy that threw 97 innings last year, 90 punch-outs, held hitters to a 247 average. He's gone. He's a guy that you gave the ball to on Friday nights, knowing you had a pretty damn good shot to win. Caden Hunter, also out. He pitched to a 5.5 last year, over 70 innings, 14 starts. They are going to bring back a guy that finished in the Big Ten all-freshman team, and Andrew Johnson. You got to be excited for him. He's a sophomore this year. He threw 67 innings as a true freshman, punched out 56, only walked 12 in that time. Sure, he finished 3-2, but he racked up 22 appearances and 6 starts. Outside of Johnson, though, it's going to be pretty slim pickings in terms of what is returning. A lot of guys that made, 1-inning appearances and a handful of them. Garen Rizzo is one guy, and as well as Ben Cushney, they both threw only 10 innings apiece, combined for 16 appearances. They also are going to lose a significant chunk on offense, but they are bringing back some fun pieces like Adrian Lopez, who posted a 950 OPS last year, 8 dingers, 21 doubles, which led the team, and 52 RBI. Abri Kovarbias is also back. He started all 58 games for the Trojans just a year ago, drove in 32 runs, led the team with 15 stolen bases. So you're bringing back some good pieces to build around on offense, but this is a team that is losing a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a step back. It's just a matter if anyone else behind them can overtake that spot, quite honestly. This year, it doesn't feel like a year where USC might legitimately compete for a title, whereas in years past, they're right there knocking on the door, especially in 2025. But when you lose a Friday night guy, and we've talked about it with LSU, when you lose a guy that you can give the ball to on Friday nights and you feel like you're guaranteed a win, if not a pretty damn good shot to win, you're going to have some struggles, especially early on in the season.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this, we're projecting them as filling some of those holes with some guys. And we think that a lot of those guys might step up, like a Mason Edwards might find his way in the weekend rotation and be really, really good. And I think that we just look at this team and say, they should be better. They get to play home games, maybe. And Stank is a really good coach. So I think that we all think this team maybe makes that corner and turns this thing around. Number 2, probably not a surprise, Oregon Ducks. They've been really, really good over the last 4 seasons. They are a team that has not been to the College World Series since, I think it's 1954. They've been really close. They were 1 game away a couple seasons ago. Last year they got to host a regional, and they lost. They went 2-Q. This team for Mark Wazkowski, I feel like they're just right there, Jared. I'm going to let you speak on this team first. 42-16 last year. Really big talent. You're muted again, so you, as you're keeping our tabs for making sure we have the right clicks.
Yeah, I'm actually doing great. I've got every team, and I got a timestamp for all of them. So, no, I think this Oregon team, I like what they return. I think when Will and I were talking about them when we were doing our Sunbelt preview prior to recording, like we just kept dropping them in rankings because we were like, the more we dive deeper into this team, I don't know how high up in the top 25 they should be, but I think they're still definitely a top 25 team. They've got enough talent returning to kind of justify that. And they return, just like UCLA, a star shortstop in Maddox Maloney, who, again, doesn't get enough attention because I think he's somewhat overshadowed by being in the same conference as Rock Chalowski. This is a guy who had a 969 OPS, built on a really incredible freshman year. He's just solidified himself as one of the top bats in the entire country. And then you have him joining up the middle with Ryan Cooney. He's also a preseason Big Ten All-Conference player for us. Likely a top 5 round pick in the 2026 MLB draft. So like between him and Maloney, you've got this solid 1-2 punch up the middle. And then you get their big bopper back in Dominic Hellman, who hit 13 home runs. Guy's built like a linebacker, just absolutely mashed his baseballs. They're going to bring in Northern Kentucky transfer Gabe Miranda, who's kind of the same thing, /338, 471, 610 with 14 doubles, 12 home runs, and 69 RBIs at Northern Kentucky. So now you got 2 big boppers in that lineup. Then they return in Berkeley Mabius, Drew Smith. So like on the offensive side, things look good. And I don't know, Will, I'll turn it over to you to kind of talk about the pitching side.
Yeah, definitely. And they do lose some key pieces. Like Mason Neville last year was top 5, I believe, in the country in home runs, nearly 30 bombs last year. Was he 1? He ended up number 1. Yeah, I was going to say, I knew he was right there knocking on the door. And and on the pitching side, yes, they're going to lose Grayson Grinsell, a guy that has been a season starter for them. Another guy that you give the ball to and you feel like you have a pretty damn good shot to win every single time he steps on the mound. He went 9-3 last year, 98 innings with 101 punch-outs. He's gone.
He gave me the most miserable start I've ever sat at, though. 6-7 walks. It was like 132 pitches, and he still only gave up 2 earned runs.
Yeah, still getting people out with allowing the 7 walks.
Always, he always does. Always
5 1/3, 132 pitches.
Always found a way to be over the 100 pitch mark. Always found a way to not let up any runs. The kid was ridiculous on the mound. This is a team that I think you have to be excited about on the pitching side. But to Jared's point, when we were talking about it, it's like, well, they're replacing a lot. You're replacing a Friday night guy. It's like, where does that leave you in terms of the top 25? I don't really know. It's tough when you have to replace really big arms. Like we've talked about this entire show. It feels like every Big Ten team is replacing a very key arm to their rotation, other than the final school that we're going to talk about. But I think you still have to be excited about the Ducks. Honestly, if anyone's going to give UCLA a run for the money, it's going to be the Ducks, especially with what they have on offense.
Yeah, and I mean, pitching-wise, we know what they bring in. So they bring in Cal Scolari from San Diego. Big transfer for them. Colin Clark's going to return. He had a lot of good innings, a lot of starts last year for them. Ian Umlunt, another guy who's been really successful for this team and his senior. So you're talking about a guy who's thrown a lot of innings in his years for the Oregon Ducks. I think that you see some consistency here from this team, and I think that you're going to see some more offense again. This is a very highly powered offensive team with that Drew Smith, Maddox Maloney, and Ryan Cooney, and then you're adding in all those other pieces, and Dominic Hellman could go for 20 if he stays healthy all season. It's really interesting to see what this team brings. I'm very excited to see just how good this Oregon Duck team can be in the 2026 season. I think they are the team that's going to be able to compete with our number one, UCLA. 48-18, made it to the World Series last year. I think a lot of people thought that the Ducks were going to be that team that made it to the World Series, and UCLA was a season away with how that sophomore class was. They stepped up huge. Will, I know you've been wanting to talk about this team for a while, so I'm going to let you start this one, and I'll switch over to Jared after that, because I know that we've talked about this team ad nauseum here in this offseason. It returns so much, it's hard not to have them picked here, and we might have them pretty high in our top 25.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our most used quote of the offseason is rattling off how many returners they start from last year, especially on offense. It's almost all of them, by the way, including the guy who's the odds-on leader to win the Golden Spikes, Rock Chalowski. Pretty much the consensus 1-1 at this point, posted a 1.190 OPS with 23 bombs, 19 RBI, 74 RBI, or 23 home runs, 74 RBI last year. Molovai Levu, he's going to be knocking on the door of 100 RBIs. I've said that all offseason long. The kid is just a ridiculous run producer / 522 with 15 doubles last year. One of the guys that I really want to highlight that I'm excited about is Peyton Brennan. I feel like he doesn't get enough love. He kind of gets buried in this lineup because of how much fire and star power that there is. He swiped 11 bags last year. I think that's going to go up. Had 10 doubles, 6 bombs, 41 RBI. I think he's going to be one of those guys that when it's all said and done, we're like, wow, that kid had a hell of a season, and nobody really talked about it because of, well, the guys in front of him. But he plays a super important role for this team, and I think you have to be super fired up to have him on your team. And that's a guy that, especially with these really, really well-oiled machine teams, those guys can tend to bounce. You know, the guys that leave into the portal and might be the 5th guy in the lineup, maybe not getting the attention because of how overshadowed they are. There's a guy that's stuck around. I think he's due for a monster year this year.
Yeah. That's crazy, right, Jared? Returning 8 starters on offense and all the pitching.
Yeah, when I was writing the preview, I was like, oh, it's Chalowski, West, Levu, Martin, Duger. Like, those are the 5 key guys. And you're like, oh, no, Phoenix Call's there. No, Peyton Brennan's there. And it's like, oh, and they also got Will Gasparino in the transfer portal, who has SEC success as a bat, a ton of power for Texas last year. Like, you bring in that guy, all of a sudden you're just throwing him in the middle of the line. Now you got your 9. Like, that's insane. And then it's the same on the pitching side. They returned 5 pitchers who all received starts last year. Michael Barnett, Landon Stump, Ian May, Wyland Moss, and CJ Bott. And then they have 6 relievers highlighted by Cal Randall, Easton Hawk, Jack O'Connor, who are also returning. So they're going to have a ton of experience on the mound. Not only that, they bring in huge names like Logan Redeman out of San Diego, who I think is kind of a preseason favorite to be potentially pitcher of the year for the Big Ten, or at least a preseason all-conference pitcher. Then they bring in freshman Angel Cervantes, who was drafted by the second round. We talked about him ad nauseum on this podcast by the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's just a kid who's one of the most polished arms. And Tyler and I talked about this on the draft podcast. Tyler's seen him pitch live, I think at NHSI last year. He's like, it's one of the most polished arms I've seen as a 17-year-old, because he was young for the draft. He was 17 years old on draft day, I think. So he comes to campus like barely turning 18. He's got a 4-pitch mix, I believe, that just kind of lives in the strike zone. The fastball's not like electric, but it's still low 90s. He can bump it up to the mid 90s if needed. I mean, you bring a kid like that in, and like I think Savage has already said the hype has been real that they've seen this fall. Like, so if that kid's cracking a rotation, like you had 5 guys return who made starts, like you get Cervantes and Redeman in that rotation as new guys. Like, what are these other 5 guys going to do? So it's just kind of like, it's nuts what they're returning. If they have a 1-2 punch with Redeman and Cervantes that ends up being like absolutely legit, and then they have all these other depth starters who, like Michael Barnett's not even a depth starter, but we're calling him a depth starter at this point because he's going to throw on Sundays probably.
Yeah, you look at this team and you go, it's a ridiculous wealth of riches, right? You're like, this is just insanity how much they have returning, and how good they're going to be. I mean, and then like you said, they bring in Will Gasparino and Logan Redeman, and they're like, okay, well, we just got better somehow from a team that finished 6th in the World Series last year, 5th in the World Series last year. Like, if they're not going back to Omaha, I think that this is not a successful season for the UCLA Bruins. I think every single person that looks at this lineup and looks at their path goes, they should be there. This is a team that should win a lot of baseball games and is really, really good. So that's our 17 rankings there of all of Big Ten. Very, very excited for this conference. I think that we all believe that's going to be a lot more offense than we've seen in the past. And the teams with the pitching could be the teams that find their way to the top of this conference. So very excited about that. Let's get into the fun ones here. Player and coach superlatives. We're going to start here with our fun one as the player of the year pick. You know what? Will, I'll let you start because I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty obvious choice. We're going to do it. We decided we're going to do this one like we did the Sun Belt one. Going to give our main pick and then a couple other guys who legitimately could be up for the award. But at the end of the day, we know it's that shortstop down in California. It's going to be Rock Chalowski. I mean, consensus 1-1, unless something really funky happens this season. I genuinely don't know how he doesn't get it. /353, 480 on base. The dude was on base almost 50% of the time last year and a 710 slug. Doesn't get any better than that. He might go 20-20 plus with doubles and home runs. He's going to be knocking on the door of 80 RBI again, especially if this offense gets better, which arguably it's going to. So, I mean, you might have 2 guys in this lineup that are going to have pushing 90 to 100 RBI. Give me Rock Chalowski. I think it's kind of a done deal for me.
Yeah, I mean, Rock's really, really good, and I don't think there's a way he falls out of the top 5 in the draft, and you're talking about a guy who's already basically going to be there for the Golden Spikes at the end of the season as long as nothing happens to him health-wise. Really, really good. Where are you going with this one, Jared? I know we all think Rock's there. Give me some other options.
Well, because Will hated on Northwestern before we started recording, I'm going to go
Don't say it like that.
Sorry, just throwing you under the bus there. I'm going to go with a shortstop that nobody, and the shortstop of the Big Ten that nobody is talking about, and Ryan Kucherik out of Northwestern. This is a kid who slashed 289, 379, 639 with a 1019 OPS, 12 doubles, 18 home runs, and 41 RBIs. Absolutely terrorized Big Ten pitching. I believe he is on our top 50 MLB draft board. Kid just absolutely mashes. And you got Maddox Maloney, you got Rock Chalowski in the Big Ten. This is a guy that no one's talking about at shortstop, and he made our preseason all-conference team. I slid him in the utility selection. Like, this is a kid that needs to have more attention on him.
Yeah, that's a great pick there. I love that. For those that have watched any of this podcast, you know my love for Maddox Maloney, right? And I kept saying, that matchup last year where UCLA went up to Oregon, and I was sitting there firsthand getting to see Rock versus Maddox, and I was like, this is the best shortstop matchup we've seen in a very, very long time. And then, of course, UCLA gets to the World Series and plays even better shortstops. But I think Maddox Maloney right there with Rock. But I'm going to go with the guy in Kason Taggart from Washington that I think is going to surprise people. He's going to hit a whole lot of home runs. He's going to hit for a high average. This is a grad guy who's been in the program a long time, knows what it takes to win. He's healthy finally. He put on 10 pounds of muscle on top of that big frame that's 6'5" already. I expect for him to hit some big numbers and be maybe that dark horse that slides in there for the player of the year. But of course, we all think it's Rock, Maddox. Those are the guys that are right there at the top. So pitcher of the year. Now in a conference that we've talked about that's been down in pitching, we got to pick a guy who thinks that's going to be right there at the top of this pitching. Go ahead and start us off, Jared.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with, sorry, putting a timestamp in here. Just making and still doing it. I'm going to go with Tate Carey out of Michigan. Will talked about him earlier and kind of giving an overview of Michigan. I mean, this kid as a freshman, man, 9-0, 3.63 ERA, 51 strikeouts in 57 innings, only started 7 games. And so like when he got moved into the rotation, it was just absolute dominance and lights out. So this guy went to the Cape Cod League this summer, posted an all right ERA, 4.50, 16 innings pitched, 12 Ks, 11 walks. So like I think we're gonna have to get some of that control under command there. But I believe that this is a kid who can really take that next step in the Big Ten. If he can build off of any of last year, maybe get the strikeout numbers up a little bit, get the walks down a little bit. Like this is a kid who's going to take off.
Yeah, he's a guy that we looked at and we're like, this. He was semi-effectively wild, right? Like he threw enough strikes to be effective. If he bumps that number up just a little bit, I think we see the strikeouts go up. I think that we see a lot more bad contact against him, and maybe that ERA even drops further than it did last year. Big pick there and Tate Carey. Go ahead, Will. Give me that pitcher of the year.
By the way, I love that Tate Carey pick. When you see guys make big jumps, especially when a guy starts that many games as a freshman, like you're due for a big jump as a sophomore. So I'm really fired up to watch him pitch. I am going to go with UCLA transfer out of San Diego, Logan Redeman. I think if this kid cracks the rotation, which like we were just talking about when we did the whole UCLA preview, there's no guarantee that he ends up in the rotation. If he is, I think he can end up easily being one of the best pitchers in the entire conference. He posted a 2.29 ERA last year over 9 starts, 55 innings pitched, 53 punch-outs to just 12 walks, almost a sub-1 whip. Then he went down into the Cape Cod League, doubled down 22 innings to a 3.22 ERA. This is a kid that has done it against the best players in the entire country in the Cape Cod League. He's done it consistently at San Diego. Give me Logan Redeman. I think he can be a slam dunk for this award.
I like that. It's going to be one where, as long as he's in the weekend rotation, getting those opportunities in Big Ten play, he's there. It could be literally any of those 6 players on that UCLA pitching staff that could get the weekend rotation. We still don't know. Savage likes to keep those cards close to his chest here at this time of the season, so none of us really have an idea fully there, other than the fact that we know that Cervantes has been really good so far in the fall. I'm going to go another transfer from San Diego in Cal Scolari. I think that he makes that jump, and he's going to be the ace of this Oregon Duck rotation. If Oregon is going to compete with UCLA, Cal's going to be the reason. He's going to have to be really good and get a lot of outs for this team. I know that they lost a lot of bullpen arms, so having the weekend rotation be good, it's going to be very important. So I'm going Cal Scolari here from the Oregon Ducks. Breakout star, so a guy who maybe has just been right there on the edge of being really good, or a freshman for 2026 that you think we should be keeping an eye on. Will, why don't you go ahead and start us off here?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting take here. I'm really fired up for this one. Give me Will Whelan out of Minnesota. I think we're due for a huge jump. Pitched in the Cape Cod League this summer, ended up being an all-star down there, posted a 3-1 record, a 1.31 ERA over 20 innings pitched. The biggest jump is that walk number went way down this summer. The strikeouts were up. Last year, he posted a 6.75 ERA, a little bit inflated. Had a lot of appearances for the Gophers with 20, only 1 start in that time, but 40 innings. But he had 23 walks. Not going to cut it when you have that many appearances, that many innings, where you're pitching 1 or 2 innings at a time. He cut that down a lot this summer, 7 over 20 in 2/3 innings. I think he's going to take a huge step for the Gophers. Not sure if he's going to end up in that rotation or just end up being the main bullpen piece, but I watched some film on him from the Cape Cod League. The stuff looks really sharp. I'm really excited for Will Whelan this year.
I think they're going to use him in pressure situations, and whether that's on the weekend rotation or they put him in big innings, I think that he's going to kind of be their go-to arm when they need big outs. So I like that pick there. Jared, who's that breakout star or freshman?
I'm going to go back to Maryland, go with the freshman Ty Connis that I talked about when I gave the Maryland preview. Again, you hit 406 home runs in fall ball, you got my attention. So I think this kid, and again, defensively at shortstop, looked great. Looked like he had the range to fill in at that position. Obviously, Coach Swope trusts him if he's already hitting him lead off this entire fall. He thinks he's going to be an offensive power for this team. He's going to get the at-bats. So I really, really think everybody should be paying attention to this kid because I think he's going to do some big things here.
Chris Hakopian found his way into the leadoff as a freshman and was really, really good. So I like that pick a lot. I'm going to go about a guy that I talked about late for that USC team in Mason Edwards, big left-handed pitcher for them. I think if he finds his way into the weekend rotation, this is a guy that could have a sub-3 ERA and be that next great USC starting pitcher. Put him in there and just give him an opportunity to go out there and go collect some innings and be really good. And I think that he's going to have the opportunity at USC this year. I'm just so excited to see games again at Rod Dedeaux Field and see some home baseball for USC. I know that they're trying to make that push to be great like they were once again, so I'm looking forward to some USC baseball. But give me Mason Edwards there for the Trojans. Transfers to look for. There's a bunch in this conference that have transferred in and a bunch of players that were going to be all over the board here where you could really say, hey, this is a really good player that might just do some big things. So, Jared, start us off with a guy that you want to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to Rutgers here and go Chase Cruson because I think the easy choice is like Will Gasparino or Logan Redeman at UCLA. I'm really intrigued to kind of see what Cruson does here at Rutgers after his year at Central Florida. At Central Florida, he's / 279, 395, 329, 724. 4 doubles, 14 RBIs. He's kind of more of a table setter profile, not a ton of power. But in the Cape this year, like he really raked 306, 369, 367 slash line. Again, you're not going to get a ton of power from him. You're going to probably get quite a few doubles. He hit 6 this summer, so he already got 2 more with a wood bat this summer than he did in his entire season with UCF. So I'm curious to see kind of what the Rutgers hitting coaches can kind of do with him. Can they get him to tap in a little bit more power and those kind of things? And so he's a guy that's not really going to steal a ton of bags either. Although, again, he only had 3 last year, stole 12 over the Cape. So something happened in the Cape that Chase kind of implemented, and I'm kind of excited to see what he can do with Rutgers.
I like it. I think it's a big thing. They're trying to figure that one out. So Chase Cruson is a big choice there. Will, give me your transfer.
Yeah, I talked about this guy when I talked about Ohio State. Give me Dane Harvey at Ohio State. Transferring in from Cowley County Community College, batted .352 with 13 home runs, 58 RBI at the junior college just a year ago. The kid has some ridiculous raw power. I think he's going to get into that Justin Hare offensive-minded system and just absolutely rake this year. I think a lot of pitchers are going to try to avoid him in that Buckeyes lineup, but I think he's going to have a lot of home runs, a lot of success coming his way.
I like that. I'm going to go with a guy who might be kind of a utility player. From LSU, Mick Paul makes the transfer out to Washington. I think that he's going to get a lot of innings in a lot of different ways for them, whether they put him in getting DH at bats or playing outfield or playing a little second, playing a little utility. I saw him in the fall, and I was really impressed by his approach and his ability to go up there and just really take good at bats and make good, solid contact. And I think having the approach coming from an LSU and really having the opportunities now at Washington, I like Mick Paul. So I'm going to take that one as my transfer to keep an eye out for. Coach of the year. This is a tough one because there's just so many good coaches in this conference, and we've seen a lot of up-and-coming coaches. But, Will, give me your idea who you think is going to be Coach of the Year and why.
It's Mike Gambino. I thought it was going to be him last year, quite honestly. Penn State was mine, and along with a lot of others in the space. It was kind of the Big Ten dark horse last year was Penn State. This year, quite honestly, I'm not seeing a lot of traction around this team. Give me Penn State. I think they're going to take a big jump. Coach of the year. I mean, this is a program that is pouring money into baseball with all the new facilities they're putting up thanks to some football cash rolling in. I'm really excited for Penn State baseball. I think the future is super bright over there, and Mike Gambino is a hell of a guy to lead that program. And really, I think if it's not this year, it's really only a matter of a couple of years where we start seeing Penn State at the top of this conference and probably seeing Gambino notch a couple of these Coach of the Years.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, Jared, Coach of the Year.
I'm going to go the easy route and go John Savage out of UCLA. Because when you win a national championship, you get Coach of the Year. We'll just leave it at that.
That's fair. If you go in and you win 25 conference games, I guess, and that's what we have them projected at, you're probably going to win Coach of the Year. So that's a good pick. I'm going with Eddie Smith out of Washington. I know I've spoke a lot about this team, but I just really have a feeling that this is the year that this team turns it around. And I think that if he can get them in the top 3 in this conference, you'd have to look at him and be like, that's got to be a really good coaching job in 2 years to turn this program around from where it was struggling after Kelly left them short notice and moved out to Texas. And I think that they're in a better spot now at Texas, with Eddie Smith. So I'm excited for him, and I think that he's going to surprise some people this year, and that might be why he wins this award. Dark horse team. So I want a team that's not in our top 3. So not USC, not Oregon, not UCLA. A team that you think can go out there and possibly win this conference. Why don't we start with Will?
I am going to go with the Michigan Wolverines here. I believe other than outside of UCLA, this is arguably the best pitching staff in the conference. Yes, the offense does have some question marks, like I mentioned earlier in the show, but I think that they're going to surprise a lot of people this year. This, like you said, Mark, this is a team that had some really high highs in 2025, largely due to that offense, to be quite honest. But you're getting some really key pitching parts back that have now gotten a year older with another year of development under the belt. I think the Wolverines are going to take a massive step here in 2026. Give me the Wolverines as the dark horse to win the Big Ten.
I like it. That's a big pick there. The pitching, that could make the biggest difference here in this conference. Jared, who is your dark horse?
I'm going to go with Maryland. I'm going to hate it because I did it last year, and then they finished 14th out of 17 in the conference. So, give me Maryland. I mean, I believe in, like you said, Mark, I believe in Coach Swope. I think that he's the guy to lead this program and get them back on track. It's hard when you lose a guy like Rob Vaughn, right? He's one of the most winningest coaches in college baseball, like one of the most incredible guys in college baseball. You lose a lot of your recruits to him. He is also now at Alabama getting some of the top prospects from Maryland to come down to Alabama. So it's hard. But I think Swope, you look what he did in the transfer portal this year and the names that he brought in. Like you said, yes, it's kind of guys who struggled in SEC, ACC, now trying to find their way in the Big Ten. With the Big Ten pitching, they can do that. And so I think this is – do I think they're going to catch a UCLA, Oregon? No. But I'm going to pick them as a dark horse to potentially do it, especially if the lineup bangs like it did again last year and if the pitching finds their way.
Yeah, I like that. I think that that's a team with all those transfers in that if they click, they could be really, really, really good. And that offense could be really lights out. I'm going to talk about a team – I've talked about Washington. I've talked about how much I love Justin Hare at Ohio State. Nebraska, for what they've done in postseason in Big Ten, is a team that if they can put it together in the regular season, they can go compete for this title. I mean, honestly, they've been right there. They won it last year. Like, this is a team that can do things in the postseason why we can't figure out why they can't do this in the regular season and put it all together. But they returned 7 offensive starters. And in a conference where that pitching is kind of down a little bit, I like Nebraska here to possibly give a run for the money here and make a late run and win this Big Ten conference regular season. I think we all agree Oregon, UCLA are well above everybody else in this conference, and we're kind of trying to see who can make that step and make it really surprising. But I think that you might see a couple teams in Oregon and UCLA that might win 25 games in conference, and it might be tough to catch them. Final thoughts here on the Big Ten as we finish up the last preview here, guys, for the Big Ten. What do we got, Will? Any final thoughts you want to share with us?
Yeah, it's kind of building off your last point that while it feels like UCLA and then a gap and then Oregon and then a big gap as everyone else kind of below that. I genuinely think the race of teams 3 through 8 in this conference is going to be super fun. I think there's 9 teams in this conference that can all compete for those next 4 spots. So yes, it is very top heavy in the way that the top 2 teams are far and away the best teams in this conference. I think the next handful of teams, that race is going to be really, really fun baseball. And if you're just getting into Big Ten baseball or you're looking for a different conference to watch that isn't televised on their own TV network, this is going to be a lot of really, really fun baseball over the course of the season.
Yeah. To your point, teams 4 through 14 last year were separated by 2 games. So there's a big wave there in the middle of this conference. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be tremendous this year to see, especially with the maybe lack of pitching that we might see in this conference. It could be exciting. Jared, final thoughts here on the Big Ten?
No, I think mine are similar to Will, so not a ton to add, but I guess for you guys, like, how many bids do you think the Big Ten gets for the tourney?
I think 2. I'm going to go
2 unless someone wins the tournament.
He's got balloons over there for Will.
And balloons, yeah. 2 and balloons.
I think it's 3. I think we're all going to say Oregon, UCLA are probably going to get bids. And I think somebody else is going to sneak in and be good enough to get a bid. I mean, they got 3 last year.
USC could do it again.
Yeah. What did they get 3 or 4 last? Did they get 4?
Did Iowa get in? No.
No. It's just USC, Oregon, UCLA, and Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Nebraska got in?
Yeah, because they won the
tournament.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So they snuck in. So
I think you could get 4, like if someone like that wins a tournament again. But I think it's a long shot.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying 3. I'm going 3 and saying that there's a team that sneaks in there. But 2 feels comfortable, Will. So I'm not against that either. 2
guaranteed 2 probably.
This year's going to be the real test. Does the committee give the third team nod to the Sun Belt or the Big Ten?
Well,
it's a test this year to see.
They didn't do it last year, and I think it's because Nebraska won the conference tournament. Had they not,
it probably is. Yeah,
I think that it probably would have been Troy.
You would have gone Troy over Nebraska easily.
Yeah, 100%. I think there.
So who gets the last at-large bid, the Big Ten or the Sun Belt? That's the test in 2026.
Well, the best part is that we'll bring it live to everybody because we'll be doing a live show during the picks. So I can't wait to talk about it and be frustrated again and throw a clipboard or something. So I'm just so excited for these preview shows, guys. We have more head coach interviews coming out. We got more player interviews coming out. All the stuff with 30 days to go. Cannot wait. For Jared and Will and myself, thanks again for joining us. We got more preview shows coming out next week. Can't wait to join you guys.